Hello again, whiskey friends. Thanks for joining everybody for another whiskey review. Today we are going to be talking about, on paper, one of my most anticipated releases of the year. When I saw this label first pop up on the TTB, man, I was pretty excited about the stats on it. You know, half of the blend that we're about to talk about here is almost 50%, 14-year, what looks to be wild turkey. What are we going to talk about today? Well, we're going to be getting into the Bardstown Discovery Series number 12. So we're talking about the red label here. This one is number 12, coming off the heels of a very successful Discovery 11, which was a comeback for the series in my opinion. So how does number 12 rank? Well, let's find out together. Thank you for joining today, whiskey friends. Let's kick off the show. We're going to pour that out there and we will let that sit out a little bit. Let that one breathe. Because once again, 14-year, what looks to be wild turkey inside this blend. We'll go over the stats of this one in just a moment. But when it does come to the Bardstown Discovery Series, I mean, I've been a big fan of this series dating back to Discovery 2. Discovery 2, 3 being one of my favorite whiskeys of all time. Discovery Series 4, all of them. Incredible whiskeys, but the series started dropping off a little bit around Series 5 through about Series 9, Series 10. Came back more recently. We'll get into that in just a moment. But one of the things that I do find that happens with some of these type of brands and with these different blenders is that they come out with some of their hardest punches first early in the series lifeline. And then as they run out of different stocks and they try something new, you know, it can lose momentum sometimes. And it does seem like recently Bardstown has gotten in some really good old casks that are helping then propel Series 11 and Series 12 forward. So let me pull up the stats here. So first off, this costs $145 at MSRP. Big shout out to a special whiskey friend who did gift this to the channel to allow me to have the chance to review it. Comes in at about 115 proof. Now, if it was age stated, it would be age stated at 6 years. So let's get into those stats. 48% Kentucky 14-year, 29% Kentucky 10-year, 15% Kentucky 10-year, and then 8% Bardstown 6-year of 4-grain bourbon. So 92% of this is what looks to be all from legacy Kentucky distilleries, ranging from 10 years to 14 years. And that pays off in a lot of the things we're about to go to with all the flavor notes and everything. There's some great flavors to highlight on this one. But, man, for only being 8%, there's something very strange that I always get on the finish of this. I attribute it to that 6-year 4-grain, lending itself a bit more craftiness on the finish than what I expect. We'll see if I continue to get that on today's tasting. And then let me know in the comments if you've had this and if you agree with how this tasting is about to play out. So let's get into this here. We're going to get into the nose, the palate, into the finish. We'll see where each of those experiences ranks, and then we'll get into the final scores. Thank you for joining, whiskey friends. Cheers, everybody. Oh my, the nose on this thing. Nose is actually probably one of my favorite parts of this entire whiskey. This is a nose that I could spend all day with. The highlight of the nose is this vibrant cherry cola note. Absolutely adore it. But there's also this nice strawberry cream, bit of custard, and even a bit of salted pretzel. That's maybe got some like rich caramel you can dip it into. And then, of course, with all of those older whiskeys in there, there is this oak that is just kind of omnipresent, gives it this nice long base. I think people are going to be really impressed with this nose. So when it comes to the nose, gave that one 2 thumbs up. Once again, probably one of the strongest noses of the year overall. especially on a bourbon. All right, let's get into the taste, everybody. Man, can't wait to talk about mid palate. But one of the things that does stick out to me a little bit, I ended up not dinging it as much, but I was on the fence. Mouthfeel wise, isn't necessarily as oily and creamy as I expected. It almost feels thin, despite all the stats and despite just the complete mess of the glass it is here. But the mouthfeel kind of strikes me as a bit thin. Um, Lots of flavors up front. The volume on them isn't that high, but lots to pick apart. I mean, you're just getting waves of baking spices, pepper, the oak, of course. That velvety oak is going to be there over and over again. And a bit of that cherry. That cherry just going to keep popping up. Now, what's really exciting about this whiskey is mid palate. Once again, I think one of the strongest mid palates of the year. Oh, I mean, it just goes into mid palate with such momentum and this abundance of fruits. I think that's what threw me off the most. I mean, in addition to the cherry that I'm going to keep talking about, there are shades of berries, melons, even a bit of citrus. Once again, all wrapped up in that lovely oak. And then there's this nice custard. There's even a little bit of like a peanut butter mousse. So we're talking about some decadent flavors, but the level of fruits that actually come through and explode mid palate is what I wasn't expecting. And I think that wowed me the most. So when it does come to the palate, going 2 thumbs up on this one as well. Really enjoying this pour. Though, as we talk about the finish, my tune changes a little bit. So once again, if you've had this, I'm curious to hear what you're thinking about this finish too. All right, one last sip. Oh. So the transition from mid palate into the finish, I mean, I still like the flavors that are going on. The cherry does play through. What always continues to strike me, and I wish I could taste this without the 6-year 4 grain in this blend, because I feel like that even though it's only 8%, it's doing something on the finish. There's almost essentially like I'm enjoying it, enjoying it, enjoying it, and then all of a sudden it has this weird transition into this like craft whiskey. I get this. The oak is replaced with what's more like a dry baker's chocolate powder. Uh, and that's, I don't know, those notes take me out of the experience despite everything that went into it up to that point. It's just like, I haven't had that happen on a whiskey. Gosh, maybe this year where, man, I was really digging it and I just can't get past the finish. Now it's got this nice long finish. So from a technical angle, it's all there. But yeah, I don't know if it's that 6 year or what's going on with the finish, but I wish it could have ended on a stronger note with that oak. All right, last one. Yeah, I think that's it. Let me know what you think in the comments if you agree with me on kind of the craft whiskey side of it for some reason being just so overhanded on the finish. So that ended up bringing it down a peg there. I gave it 1 thumb rather than 2 that you've seen across all the other experiences. So then that brings us into the final score. Here on the scoring system, we do have a 3-tier scoring system that can be broken down into flavor, experience, and value. Pretty consistently rated across the board. As mentioned, one of my favorite noses and one of my favorite mid palates in terms of the flavor. So I ended up getting 85 out of 100 points on the flavors. Experience is strong. It's complex. It's got the long finish on it. It's got lots of depth of flavors, things to pick apart. Maybe lost a few points on the mouthfeel, but still getting an 86 out of 100. And then value, $145. I mean, for something that does have 14-year Kentucky whiskey in it, you don't really get to those high age statements anymore. But at the same time, I'm still debating whether I'm going to buy a backup bottle on it or not. And that's something that always weighs on me, right? Like if I was real committed to it at the price, I'd maybe get a backup bottle. This one I'm wavering. But for what it does offer, yeah, I still gave it a 9 out of 10 on value. So that brings it to a final score of an 86 out of 100. It's interesting because I can sit here and you probably hear a little bit of the disappointment coming through. It ranked 12 out of 60 reviews done this year. So it's not like, I don't know. I guess what I'm disappointed is I think it could have been even better. Maybe, hey, maybe that 6-year craft whiskey, I have no evidence whatsoever what it tastes like without that. Maybe that entire thing makes the blend, but can't get it out of my head that like this be scoring 90, 92 if it weren't for what was happening on that finish. Like, I don't know. It took it down a little bit for me. So all time, 49 out of 222. So still upper echelon pour. And I did compare this to Discovery 11. If you were a fan of Discovery 11, I think you'll like this one even better. I think it is better put together, better constructed. I think the blend overall is actually more balanced. And it does a whole lot more dynamic things, particularly on mid palate. So if you were a fan of Discovery 11, I think you'll like Discovery 12 more, if that helps influence you further on this recommendation. So thank you for joining today, whiskey friends. Let me know what you think in the comments if you've had a chance to try it yet. Particularly interested to hear what you think on the finish and if you get those like craft undertones that kind of take you out of the experience like me. But otherwise, very, very enjoyable bottle. And I don't think you'll be disappointed or nitpicky it as much as I am here. So thank you for joining, everybody. We'll catch you on the next whiskey review. Goodbye, whiskey friends.